everyone, I'm your host, Lizzy Castro, for today's Blueprint Roundtable. I've got my business partners, Krissy Mazzano and Matt Lures with me today. Today's topic is wisdom is the result of hard-earned experience. So, Krissy, Matt, what is a piece of wisdom you've learned lately?
I think, I've talked a lot about how I feel like since I've started my career, there's just been economic challenges and issues consistently throughout it, right? It's like I don't get more than like 3 years without something hitting the fan, 3 or 4 years. And I think what I've learned through challenging times, which has been, become wisdom for me and things that I share, is that in when things are challenging, you have to take things daily in the present. You can't actually look too far ahead, which is hard if you're a planner and which is hard if you're a dreamer, right? But you actually have to take things daily and refocus and reground yourself daily, right? So, as an example, right? Let's say that you're not hitting your number or not hitting your job expectations and it's all out of your control, right? Which is a lot of times what happens during really challenging times. It's completely out of your control. And that's just the reality of what it is. So how do you motivate yourself to do everything that you can do each day, right? And I think it starts with treat that day as if there isn't a tomorrow, right? In the sense of like, this is what I have today, and this is what is going to be my success today, right? I got through, I organized my day. I organized who I was calling, what I wanted to get done that will make the most impact today. And I find like the small wins, right? Like, hey, I got someone to respond to my email. That's a small win that I'm going to celebrate, because we have to, sometimes I think people get worried about being overly optimistic about things. And to be honest with you, I don't think like there's a difference in being in denial versus being overly optimistic. And when it's a challenging time, I'd much rather be overly optimistic, or however someone wants to put it, in order to get through that challenging time, right? So you have that energy that's going to keep you going. So just regrounding yourself. And again, if you have a bad day, like start the next day and just really focus on the present. Hey, I'm going to work out today. And that was important because I took care of my mental health and my physical health, right? And sometimes during challenging times, it helps you prioritize things that you wouldn't have prioritized if you didn't have to, right? So it's like mixing stuff up. But well, Matt, what are your thoughts?
Unfortunately for our listeners, a very adjacent answer, but I think a piece of wisdom that was imparted to me multiple times recently, having 2 kids under 4, that I didn't really take advantage of until probably the last 6 to 8 months, is just spend as much of your time with them as possible. And so from the standpoint of, we can get really busy at work, whether we've got a ton of clients or we're working to get a ton of clients, right? That just busyness never ends. There's always something to be done to drive the business forward. And so I used to feel pressure to make myself available for both clients and candidates after hours, or, on the way driving the kids to daycare, things of that nature. But then I took a step back and thought about it with my wife. We really only spend about 3 hours a day as a family unit, where the 4 of us can be unbothered and the kids are awake before they go down. And that's like 1 hour in the morning, and then really it's only about 2 hours at night between the time they get home and the time the first one goes to bed. So I'm now zealous, if you will, about not allowing anything to distract me during those times, work-related or non-work-related. And so that, I don't want to say it's like a hard-learned lesson per se, but it's a lesson that people tried to give me a long time ago, and I just didn't listen. It didn't resonate. And now, having done it, it's like the best decision I've ever made. So if one person that hears this takes away that lesson, then I feel like I've accomplished my goal. But I feel more fulfilled on a personal and professional level having started that routine. And what I will say is I am more productive now within my standard working hours, because if I've got stuff that needs to get done, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'll just do it once the kids are in bed or reading. I'm like, no, once I'm off, I'm off. So I get a mass amount of work done in a short amount of time because I'm respecting my own priorities. And so I would say that would be the lesson that comes to mind. Yeah.
Preach. No, it's true. I mean, one, I think when things are negative, we can have a tendency to hyper focus on it, right? And you just kind of almost start to obsess with it, right? I mean, you saw what was going on LinkedIn at the beginning of this year. It's just like bad story after bad story. And I think with social media and the access that we have to news outlets, it's different than it was even 5 years ago, right? And so when things are bad, the noise that comes from that is tenfold, like what is actually probably really going on, and the end of the world predictions for business and all that. And so it's really important to unplug and separate things that are going to make you feel better, like exercising, spending time with your family, and realizing like it's going to be okay, right? Like, but trying to focus and on all those things, like staying up to date on all of the news or whatever is never going to benefit you. You're never going to be like, now I know what's really coming, and I can prepare. Like, I think people think they can prepare by staying in the loop with all that stuff, but all it does is actually make them super anxious, obsessed, and no longer able to like clearly focus and see, how to operate and be strategic. And now everything's run through fear, right? So but I think there's a lot of beauty in challenging times where it helps you, refocus on things that you may not have done previously. So well said. But yeah, that's all that I have.
Well, thank you, Krissy and Matt, for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom with those watching. So until next time,
Yes.
thanks, y'all.
Thanks.